Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on ABC 7. This is our special coverage of the arrival of President Joe Biden to the Tampa area. Right now, you are looking live at a shot at Tampa International of Air Force One.
Yeah, the aircraft just landing moments ago. Again, the president, this is one of his first stops in Tampa Bay, his major stop, and all eyes are on his topics today. They are expected to be reproductive rights and the abortion ban bill, and such a hotly contested debate right here in Florida. You see a lot of the members of his party and his team kind of getting things there for the president to step off of that aircraft. It should be any moment here, but really a big day here. Again, this is a lot of folks circulating the information coming here. Attendees have been asked to arrive between noon and 2 o'clock today. Folks have been waiting out there for hours for this big arrival.
Yeah, and of course, our ABC 7 team members are standing by on the ground. We have them placed in several locations. We have Summer Smith. She will be at the event where President Biden will be speaking. That will be at Hillsborough Community College, and as soon as he arrives off of Air Force One, he will be taken over. You see the limo waiting for him there. He will be taken over to that location where he will take the podium. We understand that he will be joined by several dignitaries. We're waiting to find out some more information about who exactly will be there. We also have our Brissa Bradfield. She is covering the arrival of Air Force One, and she was at the Signature Air Terminal. And that is connected to Tampa International Airport. That's kind of, Rob, where they have private planes and such.
Yeah, absolutely. So many logistics going into this, a major undertaking. We understand that in a call Monday with reporter Biden's team emphasizing that he really wants to focus on Florida ahead of this November's rematch against presumptive Republican nominee Donald Trump. Donald Trump, of course, awaiting his own trial in New York City, the hush trial, the jury getting seated in a Manhattan courtroom. That's been going on for the past several days, but it's certainly underway and in full force. So now some of the focus coming to the topics here in Florida, something really that's been so hotly contested all across the country, the abortion battle and what's going to happen with each individual state. We do understand the president's just about ready to make his way off of the aircraft, greeting all those on the ground here in Tampa Bay who have been eagerly awaiting his arrival.
Yeah, and as you said, you know, getting back to the abortion issue, the 6-week ban is set to go into effect on May 1st. Now, that obviously front and center as to why President Biden is here. He, of course, will have a heavy focus on reproductive rights. And, you know, I spoke yesterday to the representative from Planned Parenthood here in Florida, and she was, you know, she says that they are fired up. She just says that this is really an absolute attack on women's rights, and there are several, or at least one member of Planned Parenthood that is expected to be at this event where President Biden is speaking. And again, we are awaiting his arrival to walk down those steps. He'll be taken in the black vehicle you see there to that event at Hillsborough Community College, which is not too far away from the location. It's the Dale Mabry location, as we understand it. And, you know, obviously heavy security there. You have the Secret Service on hand. In fact, Summer Smith was telling us earlier, they did a sweep earlier in the day. They usually have to do that security sweep, a few hours at least ahead of the president's arrival, obviously making sure that the president is safe when he does take that podium.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's been striking about this one, Stephanie, for the past couple days, several days, I should say, is that we know exactly what the president will be addressing. Usually when they make these campaign stops, at least early in the tour, right, they're hitting on multiple different items. This one we know it's been front and center with reproductive rights and abortion. And again, the campaign itself is saying that he believes that the Biden campaign is betting that abortion will prove to be a winning issue here as far as his differences between he and former President Trump's record on the issue and the Bidens. So that is what we're seeing, and we're seeing
there he is.
See him coming off of the aircraft right now.
Taking his time.
Yep. He's getting in the vehicle now, making his greetings on the ground, certainly not wasting any time here. He wants to certainly canvass as much of the area in the Tampa Bay area as he can, reaching out to voters. Of course, Florida, always such a pivotal state in every election, but I think you're going to see that this year more than ever. It looks like they're still gathering some things, getting things loaded up into that vehicle. And
Yeah, and it's interesting, this is his first visit to Florida in more than a year.
Right.
He came here in February of 2023. So this is an opportunity for him to, speak directly to Floridians, which, as we see, this vehicle is about to depart over to the location, and it's going to be very interesting to see, what happens at this speech, because, as you said, Rob, we are just down to the critical months ahead of the November election. Florida being, of course, a red state, we are seeing a lot of support for President Trump here. President Biden, as you said, attempting to use this issue, this very hot-button issue of abortion, to try to capture votes. And as we also know, on November, the initiative to, I guess you could say, restore reproductive rights will be on the November ballot here in Florida. Of course, it needs a 60% threshold, so a very high threshold, but nonetheless, we will see what Floridians say about restoring, at least partially restoring women's rights.
Yeah, and I absolutely believe that in this case, as we all know, we're looking back before we move forward. The Biden campaign, very quick to note that Donald Trump appointed 3 very conservative U.S. Supreme Court justices who, again, all voted, again, to overturn federal abortion protection. So that kind of will play into this. He's looking at what's been done over the last few years to kind of forecast what's ahead, and he definitely wants to see a change. Whether or not that happens or not, or whether he'll get that support here in the Sunshine State, will still be left by the voters to make that decision. But it does look like the vehicle is pulling away, quite an entourage there. You even have first responders there, as they always are. We're so happy that they're always standing by in case they might ever be needed. Hopefully things will go smoothly today. That's what we're always hoping here, and we're hoping to get a good reception here in the Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and as that vehicle makes its way over to Hillsborough Community College, where President Biden will be taking the podium, you are now looking at Debbie Mercarsel-Powell. She is actually running against Rick Scott in the 2024 Florida Senate race. Here's what we know about her, Rob. Debbie Mercarsel-Powell, she is a Democrat. While working at Florida International University's College of Health and Medicine, she helped lead a program to expand access to affordable health care for Floridians. She served in Congress, the 21st District, from 2019 to 2021, and Mercarsel-Powell made history as the first Ecuadorian American and the first South American immigrant elected to Congress.
That's fantastic. Such a diverse group. And here's what we know about incumbent Rick Scott, certainly a familiar name to households, not only here in Florida, but really across the United States. He's Republican, served as governor of our great state of Florida. That was from 2011 through 2019. Now, Scott has served as senator since 2019, very, very much into service, and really has his connections in place. After serving in the United States Navy and then becoming a law firm partner, Scott co-founded Columbia Hospital Corporation. Now, as the president makes his first visit to our area in more than a year, Florida Senator Rick Scott writing a scathing op-ed criticizing Biden.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, the opinion piece, Rob, was written for The Hill. He accused the president of appeasing Iran by resurrecting the Iran deal. Scott also blamed recent anti-Israel college protests on Biden. This as the Senate is set to consider that $95 billion foreign aid package. And here is what Scott said as part of that op-ed, saying, quote, of the Jewish people. And such strong words there. Scott recently returning from his 6th trip to Israel, where he met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and President Biden announcing, meanwhile, a fresh round of sanctions against Iran after its recent missile attack on Israel. So some very strong words there, obviously, on 2 very different sides of the coin there. And as we mentioned, Rick Scott will be facing off against Debbie Mercarsel-Powell in the upcoming election. She is obviously trying to unseat Scott, who is very popular here in the state of Florida.
Yeah, and while there is a lot of anticipation for the president to come here and to kind of hear what he has to say as he gains momentum towards November, of course, there is opposition. We're not only talking about college campuses, but right here in the Tampa Bay area. We've learned that there was a group of this is some protesters and here in the Tampa Bay area getting out there early, making their voices very much heard with a lot of signs, a lot of chanting, and you can kind of see a wide group there of diversity. A lot of younger folks, you know, there's certainly some college ages there, but there's certainly some more mature folks there, definitely having their mind, perhaps you could say, already made up on abortion, on some of the other issues that the president may in fact talk about today. So, you know, it's not always going to be 100% one way or the other, and these folks have certainly been anticipating this visit for not only days but weeks now. The president keeping to his promise and moving full steam ahead, really.
Yeah. Now, Rob, I know we had tried to get Brissa Bradfield earlier. We were having some technical issues. This all happening in real time. So now we are now going to try and go back out to our Brissa Bradfield. She is standing by there. You see her right outside Air Force One. And Brissa, give us a play-by-play. What was that like to see Air Force One land and see President Biden step out of that aircraft?
In Tampa, but again, wheels will go up at 5:45 here at Tampa National Airport, and we will be covering it all day long. Guys.
So much. Certainly a lot of anticipation. As she mentioned, security is always heightened at any situation. We saw the first responders out there making sure that things do run smoothly. That's always what we're hoping. Obviously, there's going to be some opposition, probably at the airport, probably at the shots that we saw in downtown, and we may see them at the event he's going to be speaking at this afternoon.
And also, too, one of the things that I do want to point out is earlier we had heard that they were temporarily shutting down airspace in order to get Air Force One safely on the ground. So we're going to go ahead and check on some of those flight delays to see if that impacted travel in and out of Tampa International Airport. So as soon as we get that information, we'll bring that over to you.
Going on, but such a critical time in our history and hearing the voices, and I will be interested to see the response from our young college students here. You know, they are the ones that, as you mentioned earlier, they've been front and center. As Rick Scott pointed out, there have been a lot of very kind of vocal events, a lot of protests, lots of arrests at some of these big universities, and it's going from country to country and nation to nation. So the filter down effect is definitely here.
All right, so as Brissa said, looked like Air Force One landed a few minutes early, caught everyone off by surprise. But we are going to continue to monitor the president's visit as he makes his way over to Hillsborough Community College. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, reset, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
And good afternoon. If you're just joining us, I'm Rob Wells along with Stephanie Stanton. We're bringing you live coverage of President Joe Biden just touching down in Tampa, making his way to the area schools and colleges to talk to voters, both young and not so young, to kind of get his opinion and kind of test the temperature of voters here in Florida. So we're so glad you're along with us. Day-long coverage. We have crews all over the ground throughout Tampa Bay giving you the most comprehensive coverage. So welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We want to bring in now Frank Alcock. He is a professor of political science and environmental studies at New College of Florida. Hi, Frank. It's great to have you with us in studio today.
Happy to be back.
So President Biden, you know, as we just saw a few moments ago, we saw some protests, some light protests, not a huge crowd. But what is your opinion about the temperature and of him coming here? Obviously, he has a lot of supporters, but as we saw, there are detractors as well.
Sure. The timing makes sense for him in that you have...
Question about, you know, the youth. We always want to get the young folks involved in voting and learning about the issues. What about all the protests on campuses, the Israeli-Hamas war, now more than 6 months old and no sign of stopping, right? And we see a lot of pain going on there. Rick Scott coming out literally, you know, really kind of talking about these issues and almost blaming the Biden campaign for some of the unrest that's going on right now. Obviously, a huge aid package just approved over the weekend, more than $60 billion, we understand, to help nations in need. Do you think that will play into this as far as, especially the youth, that with all the protests going on, all the arrests at Columbia University, all the big schools? What do you feel about the young vote this year?
Yes, so there is no question.
Before we move on, Frank, one final question here. You know, back to the abortion issue. We know that the 6-week ban is going into effect. We know that the issue is going to the voters in November in order to restore at least a portion of women's right to abortion. And there needs to be a 60% threshold. We've seen many other states. We've seen red states solidly keep this issue, you know, approving it. Do you think that Florida has that 60% threshold to actually help restore, at least in part, women's right to abortion?
That's an excellent question, Stephanie. I would be very, very surprised if this ballot amendment garners less than 50%.
All right. Well, Frank Alcock, thank you so much. I know you're going to stick around with us. We appreciate you being here as we continue to cover this visit by President Biden. And we want to turn now to another shot. And this is, I believe, a picture of the route of the motorcade.
This is believed to be the route that the president and his entourage taking. Heavy security there. A lot of, but we're going to be panning over here to some first responders. You see the barricades set up right there. They have to do that to protect not only the president, but people walking, riding, and everything in that area. So large police presence right there, right by the Dale Mayberry campus, lined up and just preparing for everything and making sure that things go smoothly as they always do. Such a good sight to see.
Yeah, it is good to see. It is reassuring to see that, especially, you know, these days with everything going on college campuses. So, so far, so good. Everything appears to be running smoothly.